Good evening. It is Wednesday, February 5th, 2020. At 7 o'clock, I'd like to call our school committee meeting to order. Could we all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First up on our agenda, we have our student representatives from the middle school this evening, Miss Maddie Goslin and Miss Lainey Bean. Oh, steal a chair, there you go. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Maddie Goslin, and this is Lainey Bean. I'm a 6th grader, and Lainey is an 8th grader, and we are both members of the Middle School Student Council. The middle school basketball team has been working hard and had played quite a few games. The boys' team is undefeated with a record of 12-0. The girls' team improves every week. They have a record of 3-9. The cheerleaders have been cheering both teams on with spirit and enthusiasm at all home games. They're a lot of fun to watch. The 8th graders that participate in high school winter track have a district meet this Saturday, the 8th. The participants are looking forward to competing. Next year, 7th and 8th grade students are encouraged to participate in indoor track. With spring sports rapidly approaching, students should keep in mind that the middle school outdoor track is available to all students in high school. Baseball and softball is available to 8th graders and possibly 7th graders as well, depending on numbers.
Benchmarks have been taken in all classes and all grades. Math, ELA, and science were taken on the NWEA tests online. The teachers are looking closely at the results to help them prepare instruction that is effective. Members of the BVT staff will be coming to the middle school on February 14th. They will be conducting interviews with all students and have turned in their applications.
The yearbook club has been meeting weekly to prepare this year's memories. The 8th graders have turned in their baby pictures and have voted for superlatives. The yearbook members are busy taking pictures and preparing pages. All deadlines will be coming soon in order to have a finished product in time. In other news, Katie Huff was nominated as the school ambassador for Project 351. As her project, she has prepared a fundraiser for Cradles to Crayons in Worcester. She is focusing on collecting baby wipes, diapers, as well as clothing for children up to 12 years old. She is working on motivating our students to contribute to this great cause that will be ending on the 13th of February.
Katie is also working with Mrs. Meinson on a Best Buddies program at the middle school. They just completed a lesson based around New Year's resolution. All the students had a fun time. This group meets regularly during DEAR and more math time. The Student Council has spent many meetings preparing for an annual Valentine's Day dance for all grades that will be held this Friday. They are hoping for a great turnout of nicely dressed middle schoolers who will have a great night building positive friendships. Cold and flu season has hit the middle school hard this year. We are all trying to keep germs away by cleaning desks and using good hygiene. All students are counting down to February break and hoping everyone comes back healthy.
Thank you for having us and have a good night.
Great. Thank you, ladies. Any questions for Lainey and Maddie?
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Have a good
Thank
night.
you both. Should also mention that the cheerleaders are very active in the girls at the basketball games, and also the concession stand has been up and running.
Yeah.
Doing a lot of good stuff there as well.
It's been great.
Thank you all.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch them all progress this year down there. So, at this time, on our agenda, it's the public comment and communication section. The school committee welcomes public comment on items that are within the scope of the school committee's responsibilities, but not on the agenda this evening. Anyone here for anything not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, any old business the committee would like to cover? Seeing none, any new business not on the agenda? Okay, with that, we'll move on to superintendent's report. Mr. Maines.
Okay, thank you. If it's okay with the committee, I'm going to move the budget up to the first item where Mr. Bell said he might be running a little bit late in his part of the proposal. So if you don't mind, we'll jump into the budget piece first, and then we can double back to the calendar and the request that they have to make.
Okay.
All right, so Ms. Keegan has been behind closed doors for about a week and a half now. She has been poring over this and revising and making changes and meeting with everybody. So as she likes to say, that this is a preliminary budget. It does reflect salary increases, and I forget, I think we said 175 on the COLA, is that what we said? Do you remember what we had estimated of that?
I don't know.
She looks stunned.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyways, it reflects salaries, lanes, and so forth, so you'll see that in the very first number that you see there. One of the things you'll see as you work your way through it is Donna Souza was here recently presenting technology information and proposals and so forth, so you're going to see a lot of increases in the area of technology that she had presented to you in order to get the district up to a little bit more proficient.
Right.
There are included in here 3 additional educators, which we had talked about, which was the middle school special education teacher, the shared STEM position between elementary school and primary school, as well as the high school science position that had been talked about. You'll also notice in there that there is an additional 1 custodian, which had been discussed as a need for that. One of the other areas that you'll see some increases is in the area of textbooks and the e-book licenses. Also, you'll see some increases in facilities with regards to custodial supply lines and also for repairs and so forth.
So when you say increases, I'm assuming those are increases over the last year, but probably not terribly high compared historically, I imagine. I think those are
So
lines
you'll
that
see
we've been
increases
eating into.
in our supply lines, because as you know,
Yeah,
over the last X number of years, the custodial supplies is one of the areas that
yeah, I know we've been hitting that.
gets
so.
hit a lot. And so this is presenting a budget that reflects what we believe our needs are going to be
Thank you.
for custodial supplies. And as you know, the other thing that's been a significant hit for us has been the repairs that we've had to do,
Right.
which seem to be never-ending, to be honest with you.
In the places where it says telephone, a lot of times the teachers, like at the high school, like don't leave messages, our phones never work. I think actually even in the middle school, some of the teachers are like, don't call my phone, it doesn't work. Is that something that we're gonna put in here to make the phones work in the schools?
Well, to be honest with you, I haven't heard a whole lot about phones not working in the school, to be honest with you.
I've always been told you can't leave a message for teachers,
Well, that,
because the phones don't work.
no, they work.
At the middle school, they have a virtual mailbox.
Right.
So they get an email when they get a.
What about the high school?
But they get emails here, right? I mean, phone messages.
Yeah, they do, yeah.
They get phone messages.
And quite frankly, that's what I've been told just by some high school teachers is email me, don't call me, because I'm not sure how to use the phone. Not that the
Yeah.
phones don't work, but
Yeah,
that they
'cause-
prefer the email.
Yeah, I've never heard that you couldn't leave messages on the phone, usually, so,
Okay, I just saw the word telephone, that's what made me,
Okay.
triggered that.
I would say that, and we'll go through this, but I don't think that you're gonna find any real significant surprises. It does represent an increase, and it also does include the planned use of revolving funds and grants and so forth. So, I'm not sure how the committee would like me to, do you want me to go through each school and look at their overall, or?
Any thoughts? I think just maybe a by school, hit the highlights kind of deal would probably be most appropriate at this time.
There's nothing, I would say, that's exceedingly alarming in the school committee or the superintendent's area or the business area. No real surprises in any of that, so if you want, I will, in the technology piece, again, no real significant surprises in the first part of it, but you're going to see technology throughout the entire document, to be honest with you, so. Let's go back to the page here. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. So if you were to go over to page 5, the bottom of page 5, you get a look at total district-wide. Again, you'll see some increases in salaries and network and things such as that, but the final number at district-wide is $2,177,074. Again, a little bit of an increase again in some of the maintenance and custodial supplies, but nothing alarming. You also see in there some of the teaching positions and also the non-custodial position.
Any questions there? Okay.
At the primary school, which starts on page 6, follows the usual pattern. I didn't see anything exceedingly alarming in the primary school again.
We get the .5 STEM is in there.
So the .5 STEM is in there as a shared, they'll pick up a percentage, $27,500 in there for the STEM.
Okay.
That's the only increase in staffing there. And then, the only thing I remember that in talking this morning about it was that there was a bit of an increase with regards to the textbooks in English, I believe it is, EL reading. Reading textbooks was the only thing that was really an increase. It's just to get the subscription and licensing and so forth.
Yep.
If you go over to page 9 at the bottom of the page for total primary, you can see that the total primary is $1,727,552.
Okay.
And you can see that things such as the fuel, oil, and electricity and so forth, those will be, as we have done in previous years, using some of the revolving accounts to take care of those. And then over to the elementary school, again reflects the the .5 STEM teacher there. Also, in talking with John this morning, they also have some increases along the lines of textbooks and some of their supply lines. They also have a slight increase with exploring the ST math as a possibility, which would be an increase as well there. I'm trying to find the textbook details. Yeah, so in textbooks, you can see that the big hit for textbooks is in the reading textbooks. Again, same thing as Cindy was just mentioning for the licensing. So there's an increase there up to $40,000 now for the reading textbooks for the five grade levels, 4 grade levels, 5 grade levels. There. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4 grade levels. And then an increase in the maintenance again, we talked about. On page 14 of that, the elementary school has a final dollar amount of $3,462,140. For the middle school, no significant changes in what they're asking for. The only increase would be, as I mentioned, the one special education teacher would be for that building. Again, for the most part, level across the board. Maintains our athletics, maintains all of the positions that we presently have in there. And the total on page 19 for the middle school would be $2,679,265.
Okay.
Nothing there, and then I'll I'll just go to the high school, then we can double back if you have questions. The
Sounds
high
good.
school, the only increase in staffing, as I mentioned, is the science teacher, the 1.0 science teacher.
Okay.
For the most part, it's level throughout most of them, modest increases in supplies and things such as that, but nothing significant.
Yep.
Computers are in there, as you can see, for the lease, the 3-year lease is in there, as well as some other computers. And,
Could I ask a
Yep.
question right there? Given the presentation last week, do you feel comfortable with the number of computers and technology that we're adding to the budget this year?
so, I mean, I think we're gonna have to make some decisions. I mean, what Donna laid out was a very detailed plan, and, you know, this year and next year look like very significant asks. You know, I know that some of the things are on capital requests. See what happens with that. My hope is that we'll get lucky there and maybe get some funding for some of the computers there. I will come back to another thing under topics not anticipated, something about the rural aid grant that I received on Friday, so I wasn't able to add it on to this. But I'll come back and we need to really kind of talk about that. And I picked, right before I came here, I should have mentioned this to you as well, Courtney. Three documents came in related to this grant and some specifics and some details, and I did not get a chance to read them. But hopefully that will be something that might help us to offset some of the cost for some computers and so forth as well. But I didn't get a chance to read all the provisions and restrictions and so forth on that grant. In the athletic program remains, all of the things that require us to run the athletic program and all of our extracurriculars. I should have mentioned all the extracurriculars that are in place at the schools are still in place at the schools, so the enrichment of the elementary, the student council and all the other things at the middle school, and then all the things that we have here at the high school are still in there.
Can I just go
Yep.
back, can I go something like that? I was kind of on a couple pages before you said that. I noticed like for the middle school, it's on 18, but the salary, the total for athletics was 9,000 in 19, and 20 was 11, now all of a sudden it's 31 for proposal. Which, of course, I was curious why the huge jump on that one.
Give me a second. What page did you say, 18?
18.
Okay. So you, tell me again what your question was, I'm sorry.
But why is it like so much higher? 31,000.
Well, that's a good question, let's take a look at it. So stipends are a little bit higher, yep.
Yeah.
Middle school, yeah.
Yeah, because we didn't have the increase with the high school.
It looks like the coaching I mean, just at first look, there was 0 for coaching stipends, and this is
Yeah, so I think-
70,000.
No, that's not it, no. I think because the stipends that you're seeing there
Zero.
was at 0, and
And now they're included?
now they're included.
Okay. Because then that leads to the question I was gonna ask about the high school.
Yeah, I'd be happy to
Because-
speak. Okay. You had a question about athletics?
Yeah, so
Okay.
for both the high
So-
school and the middle school.
Okay, so for the middle school, just remember that when when you're looking at this budget, the FY 2021, okay, it starts off with the actuals, okay, and then the actuals for 19, the budget for 20. But remember that budget you're looking at for 20 is net of any offsets. So you can't really look at the FY '20 and think that that's all that was actually the full amount of the expenditures, because they were offsets. Because remember, this is a general fund budget.
If you really want to
So
compare.
the actual amount for FY 2020 for the sports, before the offsets last year, was $29,283.
Yeah.
Because the
Okay.
stipends are not included.
Just
Yep.
that, yeah.
And this year, it's $31,955. So sometimes you can have differences in sports, you can have differences in revenue, in offsets, and sometimes there can be a difference in what I actually apply for revenue if I have a carryover amount too from the prior year. So there's all kinds of things that come into play there. But as far as looking at expenditure to expenditure, it's just about the same for the middle school.
Okay, so
Now,
that's
for
what I
the
was looking
high
at for
school,
the high
though,
school, too.
yep, for the high school, there's several things going on there. Actually, there have been some increases to the high school. Now, I do want to say that this is a preliminary proposed budget.
Right.
I promise not to say it 1,000 times because I don't want to be here until 11 o'clock tonight, so I'll only say it 10. But that being said, we do want, and I assume that the school committee wants as well, for, principals to prepare a budget based on what they really feel that they need for the students of our district. I mean, I think that we all agree with that. So with regard to the athletic budget, Mr. Romano did include some additional stipends for some sports that maybe didn't happen last year or the year before, but he's hoping to get them going. That's one thing there. We also have unified sports included in this budget, which I know everyone supports doing that as well. As Mr. Means, I'm sure, talked about in the past, we're just getting it off the ground, but we did want to incorporate some items in there. So we have some transportation and some supplies. We also have some additional, we have $8,500 in there for an athletic trainer. We have, I think it's $375 for please correct me, Mr. Romano, if I'm wrong, for a game administrator.
Yes.
And a couple of other memberships. So that pretty much would be the difference
So
there.
what's the negative 50,000? Is that from circuit breaker for having like?
Oh, no, that's the offset from the athletic revolving fees.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll talk about that column. If I get a chance at the end, I'll talk about the column, having to do with the offsets as well. Yeah. So there is an increase. There definitely is an increase. And actually, to compare, it's a good thing I grabbed this at the last minute, because I did bring it, because I thought, because you can't really compare if you look at this,
Yeah.
as far as the full data. So let me see what there was last year. As far as, last year, the actual expenditure budget was $286,936 and $326,892. So it is definitely an increase, but I'm pretty sure that everything that I just enumerated, delineated, I should say, accounts for all those increases. Again, there might be some reductions going forward, because as you see at the bottom line, you'll see this big
Yeah. No,
deficit that we have,
so
but we certainly wanted to incorporate what we thought was good for our students here at Douglas Public Schools, so.
Yeah, if I could just jump in and just editorialize a bit there. So I think this is a departure from last year, and I think it's a welcome departure from what we did last year. I think the budget we presented initially was a pure level service, strip everything out of it as you can, and this is the bare minimum that we need. And that was the budget that we kind of presented right off the bat. That was our first and really only budget. I know we even then.
And that was mandated.
It was.
That was
No,
mandated.
it was,
We
yeah.
wouldn't have done that, but.
No, but
yes.
that was, it's a
Yeah, it was
different
mandated.
process this year. I think it's a bit more transparent this year, because we're really displaying the full district needs in our budget this time, which is good. Again, it's going to be a big number increase over last year's budget. Everyone just is prepared to see that. And again, it might need some work to get us to a point where it's something that, we feel that we're actually going to be able to get from the town overall. But I think this is a better probably starting point overall for us, so we know the full picture of what the district needs.
Well,
So-
when we originally went to the Finance Committee, the first meeting we had with them, we told them that we would present
Right.
our needs.
Yep.
And Courtney and I have said this 1,000 times, we'll present what our needs are, but when all is said and done, they'll give us a final number. And we will go through the process that we've gone through, and hopefully it won't be as painful as it has been many, many years ago, but we will get back to that, we will get to that number by
Yeah.
prioritizing and collaboratively working out what we're going to do for any possible reductions. But again, on a more positive note, as what you were saying, Brett, was that there was definitely favorable reaction, I believe, both at the Finance Committee and recently at a meeting with the town administrator, who understands the reasoning behind the STEM position that we're proposing, and the additional of the high school science teacher, and how that would help us with the new products and with new programs and so forth. So I think that they're on board with all of that. So, we will work our way back from there. My hope is that, our hope is always that we would stay whole, continue to offer the programs that we want to offer, and,
And just the other thing I wanted to note for the rest of the committee too, just as you're looking at this this would also include anything that we've added to the budget since last year. So the
Right.
things that we've
Correct.
added,
Staffing throughout the year.
staffing that we've added since,
Correct.
the summertime. So it's not just the additions that Mr. Maines
Right.
outlined earlier, the 3 positions plus the technology. It's things that we added in August, in September, and October are in the, kind of the baseline as well with this,
I
so.
believe we've added one teaching position, which is the EL position at the middle,
And the
at the
kindergarten
elementary.
came in after
We
as
added,
well, right?
added those,
Yeah, we did the kindergarten
Right.
teacher, kindergarten para, we did, Mrs.
But I think
Zerka
we
can
did that
correct me,
right
but
bef-
2
before-
paras or?
because Cindy knew that the number was high, so I thought
No,
had-
we did it before school started, but we
Right.
did it after the budget,
Right,
though.
right.
That-
Oh, I'm
that-
sorry.
that-
Yes,
that-
I'm sorry.
Those positions
I
were
thought
in
you
the
were talking
budget
about after
from last
school
year.
began.
So when you
I'm
look at the
sorry.
FY
Yes.
'20 budget number here,
Yep, you're absolutely
that kindergarten position wasn't in there.
Yep.
So there's some
Yep.
additions in there that are on staff right now.
Right.
There's some additions in there that we'd like to add.
Right.
So just keep everything in perspective.
So
So.
if you would, if we could go to the last page, I'll ask Courtney to go through the details on the last page and the percentages and plan to use other sources.
Before I go to that, on the first, if you go back to page 1 on the first line, salary wage adjustment line, just so that no one kind of goes, So there is, a COLA amount in there. I also want you to know that there's also the degree changes. So a letter goes out to all of the staff, and we do incorporate, I do a spreadsheet, so that they do, fulfill the degree requirements to move up
Yep.
a lane. I do have that incorporated in there as well, and a few other things too. So it's
So it
not just, that's not
includes-
just COLA, that amount.
Includes
so.
COLA assumption and lane shifts, does not include steps.
Oh, I was just about to say, yeah.
Okay.
Steps is actually incorporated in the budget in every single
In
salary
individual
line.
lines,
The
okay.
steps are all in the line, it's
But
only
lanes and COLA
COLA
are
and
lumped there
lanes,
for now.
yes, that's
Okay.
correct, and a couple of other things as well.
Thank you.
Okay, I just want to make that clear.
Yep.
Didn't want anybody to see that number and wonder, geez, it seems too
Yeah,
low
what-
if the steps aren't in there, or it seems too high if,
Right, no, that's very helpful
Yeah,
to
so I wanted to
know.
clarify that.
Yeah.
And on facilities, I do want to let you know that on the high school, there is a huge increase. As you know, the school is getting, well, these days, old. Now, if you look at the primary school, 40, 50 years, knock on wood, it's still not old. That school just keeps on, I didn't say it, but we are starting to see some problems. We've had to spend some money the last several years that, we weren't counting on. So Jeff did put in quite an increase in there. What we do, he usually requests a pretty good amount for the school. We end up reducing it every year, and then we end up spending the money anyway. So we did incorporate that in there. We also have an additional $9,000 at the elementary school for glycol. We have $39,000 incorporated in the high school for a glycol project as well. We did a sort of a remedial one this year to get us through the winter season. And then we'll probably have to spend the additional $39,000. Maybe not that much, but we're still
I-
waiting to see, because there are various options with regard to that.
If I could jump in
That's
on
next
that.
year.
I talked to Jeff this morning, and you were at a Masville meeting, so you didn't have a chance, but he had talked to somebody else who was recommending, so he's now going to have the two parties get together, that we don't need to flush it, and we just need to add glycol, so it might not need to spend. So they're going to have to talk about it.
Yeah, wait
They're
and see.
going to have to figure out what's the right thing to do. We're going to do
Yeah.
the right thing for
Yeah.
for the
yeah.
school, but it was new information this morning, and Jeff was kind of surprised that they were saying, maybe not, maybe you don't need to drain it and go through that whole process, which is much more expensive, which would be a plus,
Yeah, would be a plus. if
as
we could
long
do
as
that.
it's
Yeah,
going to keep
definitely.
us functioning correctly.
Definitely. Okay. So, going to the last page. So, as I do every year, the third to the last column is, all those minuses are the offsets, and that would be all the ones delineated below, which is school choice, circuit breaker, preschool, this year, the middle school and high school athletic programs, and a very small amount for music programs, just a little bit that I'm using left over from a revolving fund.
Okay.
And then we have grants. We have the SPED 94, 142, or commonly known the 240 grant to me and Neely. Title I and SPED Early Childhood Grant, that's the 262 grant,
Okay.
for a total of $2,570,463. Now, as you know, the two largest ones are school choice, and I'll start with that one. So that one, I did look at the data that we have. I looked at 19, and I also looked at 20. I pulled off all of the 12th graders, didn't assume any new ones coming in. And also, I pulled off a little bit, because there's also, as you know, there's $5,000 for each student, but there's also special ed increment.
Yep.
And, in fact, I provided to you, if you look at the documents that, on the small set here that I provided to you, and if you go to the second page, if you look at the trend history on the special ed increment, it used to be next to nothing, and it has increased substantially. So going by the data that I actually had documentation for, I removed a little bit off of that, just based on a 12th grader that was going off that also had special ed increment. I did not assume any new ones coming in. I feel like I'm being prudently conservative.
Yep.
So maybe we can increase this later on, but I think we definitely need to wait as we proceed in the next few months to see.
Okay.
Because, you know, I always have to be prudently conservative in that first brush with the budget. On the special ed circuit breaker, Neely and Lois prepare a spreadsheet, as you know, each year for us to give some estimates. And again, as we always say every year, they don't upload the file until much later on.
Right.
So I take that, and even though Jay Sullivan said probably 75%, I did 70. I didn't go as low as 65 like I have in the past. I did increase it 5%. I think I can still sleep. So based on what Neely provided to me, we do have some big changes, actually, that we've talked about in the past, some students going off, and we knew that was coming and things of that nature. So right now I have in there for planned expenditures throughout the budget, and it would be sped tuitions, both at the high school and the elementary school that I'm offsetting. I have in there 900,000 right now.
Okay.
And as you can see, the way that we kind of, that flows through, it's an estimate on the expenditures in FY '20. I have projected out, but as you know, when it comes to things, I don't know what's going to happen over the next 6 months. So again, I want to make sure I keep that extra. Unlike last year, which, as you know, Brett, I did for the first time, and I did say I could still sleep, and I did sleep.
Yep.
This year, I am not predicting any amount of carryover. I'm going back to my old way.
Okay.
Because we have used an extraordinary amount of school choice this year, so I'm kind of balancing that off as far as not putting us out too much on a limb.
Yep.
So I'm not doing that. I feel that that's a prudent thing to do at this time.
No, I think these are both the right starting point. And
Starting point,
if we feel,
correct.
you know, I think it's up to the committee here if we want to ask you to be more aggressive than that and just for us to deliberate on that, but, you know.
Then you'll all vote and you'll take all the rap, too.
Yeah. No, but I think, no.
When people want to spend money, they can call you.
No, and I think we would do that
I'm only
with under your kind of tutelage
Yeah, I'm
and
just
recommendations as well, but I think
Yeah.
where you've started with this is appropriate.
Yeah,
So-
because it is still early. A lot can happen between now and then.
Yep.
We have had a lot that's happened this year, is just to remind you about the elementary school grease interceptor, you know, we had the high school, middle school project, high school project, you know, so, and just to remind everyone that the town did say that they would try. I'm not going to hold them to it. It's nice that they said they would try to give us back, I think it was around $20,000 for one of them. So we'll see what happens at the town meeting. The only other one that I wanted to go over as far as the offsets is the preschool revolving fund. So I think the last sheet on your packet here.
Yep.
And this is very preliminary. And I do
Second
want
last.
to tell you that I had brought to you previously when we were adding on new programs. As you know, over the last 2 years, we've added
Yep.
on programs. And much to my surprise, I think it's the first time that's happened to me in 26 years or whatever, that when I called and got where we are as far as the FY '20 accounts receivable, you know, for the year,
Yep.
it's not anywhere near where we thought we would be. So I kind of pulled way back, as you can see.
Okay.
But, so don't be too concerned with that revenue over expenditures right now. I'm being very, see on the FY '21 projection?
Yep.
In black at the bottom there. Now, as you know, we certainly do typically want revenue to cover expenditures. But I pulled way back on the revenue projection. We'll see how we proceed through the year and how things look as far as new students coming on and things of that nature. I do want to say that it's extremely hard for Mrs. Socia to predict because, as you know, a parent can pick 2 days, 3 days, half days, full days, and you know, you don't always know what that's going to be. So we did the best that we could with the information that we had at the time. So another thing I want to delineate with regard to the preschool program, I did put another 0.5 FTE of one of the teachers in the revolving fund. So as you can see at the ending revolving fund balance that I have projected for FY '20 after updating the revenues, to that lower amount, we still have quite a hefty fund balance there.
Right.
So, and you can see the fund balance is still projected to be quite a bit there. And as you know, there's not really any volatility per se, is, something that can happen with, a heating system. It wouldn't come out of here. There's nothing that would come out of here. As you can see, all it is staff, 98% of it or whatever, and just a few very, very minor expenses that come out of the revolving fund. So I thought, because we were taking such a big hit, we are trying to do some really good things for the school district, I kind of put myself a little bit out on a limb. Certainly, if any of the school committee feels that you have any qualms about that, certainly let me know. I'm comfortable with it, but, and again, these are all very preliminary.
Yep.
And we can certainly update everything as we go along, all of these things. So I'm trying to balance things so we don't have to cut things unnecessarily and be sitting on fund balance.
Yeah, no.
Because we don't want to be sitting on any funds when we can utilize them for our students,
Nope,
because that's what the money's there for.
makes sense.
So, the only other thing I provided, do you have any questions with regard to the offsets?
I do, one quick one.
Okay, mhm.
So, you provided a nice trend for us down at the bottom of the page, which I
Yes,
love.
mhm.
Is that, so the 2,570,000 for this year, for FY '21, that compares to those numbers?
Mm-hmm.
I guess they're inclusive of the same categories?
Yes, except we had a small golf donation last year. I mean, very, very minor. Yeah, very, very small, but
Generally
yes.
speaking, it's inclusive of the
Absolutely.
same things. Okay,
Mhm.
so we're.
And keep in mind, these are budgeted, Brett, just to
Yes,
remind
we
you,
may
because they
end up
do
using
change,
more or
because we
less. Yeah,
do
yep.
throughout the
Understood.
year.
I just want to make sure we're
wanna
kind of
make
comparing
that
apples to
clear,
apples
too.
when I look at that. And
As far as budget to
Yeah, I
budget,
think I had the
yes.
same question last
Mhm.
year and failed to ask it, or asked it and forgot the answer.
And I'm being
So-
conservative with regard to the grants as well, because we don't have the figures yet. I know it just came out for the 240 grant, but Neely hasn't had a chance to even look at it, let alone, so. And I did look to see if the numbers were out there. I didn't see them. No, I don't think they're out there yet, so. Okay, and the only other thing I provided to you in the little packet of information, I did provide to you, again, the ESC circuit breaker historical revenue trend calculations. So it's been updated through actuals for FY '19. And then I have the preliminary for '20 and the preliminary for '21. Very preliminary for '21. Because again, it's based on information that hasn't even been uploaded yet. But the one in the FY '20 column, that is from DESC as on October 28th. They'll update it towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
But I'm providing that to you, just so you see the trend there. And I believe I also provided to you the Chapter 70. It's in color
Yes.
at the end. Yep, just so you'll have that as well. As we're all aware, for the Chapter 78, all we receive is what we get every year, the additional,
Yeah.
minimal amount per
Minimum increase,
student.
Which again, just to
No.
put it in perspective, it's
Mm-hmm.
$36,000 increase in Chapter 78 on a base of almost $8 million. It's a 0.42% increase in Chapter 70, which
Mm-hmm. Yep.
represents more than half of our funding overall. So
Yep.
again, if you have more than half your funding growing at only 0.42%, even if the other half is growing at 2.5%, it leaves you in a place where you're not growing very quickly.
But that being said, as you know, part of this,
Yeah.
formula, and we won't get into the, change in the foundation budget and formula tonight, but we do have decreasing enrollment, and that does come into play.
No, it does, yeah.
To some extent. And I also want to remind everyone that we are very lucky that we are still held harmless.
Yes.
Okay? So,
No,
that's a
it's
good thing as well.
Good point, yeah.
At MASBO today, they did talk about the student opportunity, and, there still isn't a lot out there as far as specifics for us, because we always fall through the cracks, but there was one thing about that Neely and I will be working on together, the circuit breaker additional reimbursement for special ed transportation. And the good thing for us is we contract out. DESC has not figured out, even after all these months, how they're going to deal with districts that actually have it in-house. They
Oh.
cannot come up with a methodology. So for us, it's going to be very simple. So we're happy about that.
Okay.
So, and oh, by the way, as you see at the bottom there, the special ed transportation, knock on wood for now, because the
Yeah.
town will be happy with that, did increase.
Great.
So our overall transportation for the town separate warrant article decreased by 3.26%. So
good.
that's a good thing, too.
Yep.
And,
Always good to see.
that's as of this moment in time. So, and again, we don't have any information from the town with regard to funding. And that's another piece that'll come into play later on, as Mr. Mays mentioned earlier.
So I'll pause there and see if anyone has questions on this. And just note that we are going to be presenting our budget to Finance Committee on the 25th. They asked us to come forward with several scenarios. So I think this would be the top line scenario of what we would present to them. This is this is our total ask for what we need to kind of keep moving the district forward. We'll also present to them a number that represents more of a level service, which is our current level service, and what that means from a budget increase over last year. And then we'll also present a couple scenarios that, what if you only get, actually I think it's probably only worth presenting one scenario below that, like what does it mean if you get a 2% increase or something like that. So
I'm assuming, I'm kind of in shock here a little bit. I wasn't aware of that. So I assume that we would go in with this budget here, and we can do one-sheeters, because it would be easy. And I can delineate, like I do with Excel spreadsheet, what I'll do is I'll start with this, and then we can delineate, the big add-ins, the add-ins here and some other things too, I guess, to get back,
Yep.
Okay.
I think it's pretty similar to what we presented to them last time. It's a one-pager that, I think we presented this detail to them 4 times over for 4 scenarios. It would, it would not be very productive. No, it's a one-pager that gives the highlights around. This is our full ask. This is what we would be asking for if we were just asking for level service, and this is what we would have to cut if you only gave us X%. And we'll have to figure out what that X% is. And these are the things that would have to come out. Maybe it's not a specific list. It would have to be. These are the.
Wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, I would. I don't think I could do that. We'd have to provide some equivalence. We'd have to cut 500,000 or whatever the number is.
I think dollar amount is one thing, and then when they ask that that they'll ask the question, where would you anticipate that coming from?
Yeah, it would be a combination of things. Yeah, it would be. Yeah. So.
Everywhere.
It'll take time to figure it out.
So.
I assume that they're going to expect that presentation of what a budget would look like below level service.
Yeah, so that was the number we were talking about. So what do you present for that? And really, it would not be a full budget. It would just be, if below level service, depending on how far below. If we were only get X%, whatever percent, that would mean we would have to cut X dollars. Let's again, I just use 500,000 off the top of my head.
Right.
We would have to move
So you're just
500,000.
looking for a percentage. If you
Yeah.
got one,
We'd have
if you
to
got
have that.
1.5%, what would that mean dollar-wise, and how much would you be over, and how much would you need to cut?
Yeah.
That's the only way we
Yeah.
did
Last
last
year
year.
was That's the only way we could do it.
Not specific
Yeah.
details,
No.
just
Yeah.
the dollar amount, and then,
Yeah.
I just don't, it makes sense to me. I just don't love the idea of the budget that we want, which I am confident is still not the ideal budget, with the ideal supplies being like the top tier of the 3, because then it feels like the level service is like the compromise, but I get it.
Yeah, I think that's.
Do you think we could do it that way? Because actually, that's a good point you bring
Like,
up. Because you
what do you
reminded me of
want?
last year. So do you think if we start off, remember we did that last year?
Yeah, I think.
And
we'll
then,
do the same thing.
so
Yeah.
you mean just one page?
That one pager, yeah.
Not 3,
No.
perfect.
Yeah, look at that
Okay,
same
great.
one page
Much
that we did
easier.
last year. Yep,
Okay,
same
good.
deal.
Thank God.
So, no, same thing.
All right, good. And it's
Yeah,
easier for them
I
to
don't think I
follow,
would
too.
bring,
Yeah,
I
no,
wouldn't bring
that's
any of
very
this
Because they
detail.
would get all,
Yeah.
even we'd get confused.
No, I wouldn't bring any of this
Yeah.
detail. It's that one page, and that's it. So,
Well, they would get a copy of this, I would think.
oh yeah, we can't, I guess
Oh,
we
yeah, yeah.
can.
I would get-
I
I
would
would, yeah.
wait and hand that out after the main discussion, though. Let's put it that way. So, we'll have a chance to
We
talk
can
about that
talk about
beforehand,
that, yeah, we can talk about that. Yeah.
would it be wise to perhaps get a budget subcommittee meeting in advance of that, just so we can discuss how we want to present it? And the other question was, and I don't know where everybody stands on this, Courtney, you can jump in if you want. We had talked about possibly coming back next week. Do you think that we need to come back I think
Well,
we're
that's-
good right now.
I killed myself, so we wouldn't have.
That's my point. I just want to make sure.
That doesn't
We
answer,
had
I
talked
don't
about
know.
this previously.
No, so that's
When do we need to come back? I just want
Yeah.
to clear up whether we do. We
So my next question was, is everyone comfortable here with presenting to the Finance Committee, again, this budget in total, as our primary ask, as well as the one page that delineates, again, what would mean at level service and what would it mean at X%? And again, I think a budget subcommittee was the appropriate place for us to determine what that below level service point that we would present to them is.
My only question, if I'm, and I may be wrong on dates, but would we see that one pager before we go to FinCom?
We
That was
we
my
could
reason for
email it to
trying to put
you,
that
I
together.
guess, or we could do it next week, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, I'm not trying to add another meeting in. I'm fine if it's emailed, but just before walking into FinCom that night,
I don't
I
think we
would
can
like
do
to
that.
see what that one pager looks like, I guess.
Yeah.
How about this, if this would work for you? Because actually, I don't believe that we can email it to all of you.
Oh, okay.
But how about if we have oh no, we have a meeting before that.
Can you just put it in the
I was thinking we
office?
could actually have a meeting
gonna say, you
before
put it in
that.
the office.
We've
If it's in
got a
the
meeting
office, I
before
can-
that.
You can step up.
We can
So
come in.
if we had it, when we get it completed, we could reach out and let you know that it's completed and have it in the office, and you can not, if it's in your daily routine, if you want to come by at a certain time to look at it, it'll be available.
We
to you.
wouldn't be able to send it out a few days before as just a part of an agenda packet for that evening,
Oh.
right?
Thinking.
And I guess
we'll post the
we
meeting.
would have to know is, and again, I'm going to assume
Yes.
everyone's going to plan to attend, so we would post a school committee meeting for that
Yes.
evening. It would be a joint FinCom
Yes.
school committee meeting.
Yes.
Remember
We can
that.
send the materials out ahead of time as
Yes,
part of our agenda for that
absolutely,
evening.
absolutely. And I do want to remind you, too, that I do have to send this to the town manager
Right,
and the
okay.
town, and the finance director tomorrow. So absolutely, the finance committee, it has to go to them tomorrow anyway. You know how by law we have to send our budget,
Right.
knowing it's the first draft,
Yep.
to the town, so, perfect, that solves that, okay.
Okay.
I'm going to have Lauren post for the 25th at the town hall.
Yep.
We're at 7 o'clock. Are we the only game in town, or are there others?
No, they
The
said
fourth on the agenda.
that there were a number of, because when we were
Yeah,
there
they
the
were
last
actually
time.
questioning whether.
We'd have
Yeah.
time,
Okay.
because there were a couple of other departments that were,
Yeah, there were 3, Jean told me yesterday, that I think there's 3 before us, but they're smaller departments, so maybe it won't be so bad. Okay.
They told us that last time.
yeah,
We were there for an hour and a half before we
One
went out.
other
so.
piece, if we're going to post a meeting for the 25th, will we have 3 people, a quorum from the committee there? Is everybody planning on going to that meeting, or
I
it's
will
an
be
extra
there.
meeting? I don't know if people check their calendars.
I'll be
Yeah.
there. I have
want
it
a
already
quorum
on
there?
my.
Is that
Oh,
better?
it would be good.
I think it's,
If we're posting,
it's good.
if we're
I think either
posting a
way.
meeting, don't you have to have a
good.
quorum?
you could always, yeah, we would have to, but if we
Yes.
didn't get one, the meeting would just be canceled. You wouldn't,
Right.
you know. So I think we would post it regardless. If we can't get everybody there, that's okay. But as long as we have someone there, that's,
Something to
you know.
take into consideration.
So, but
Lisa's
yeah, so
out.
I think posted no matter what.
Okay.
I would think we'd have 3, because this is a real meeting between the two of you, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in the past, we haven't always had a quorum to present to them. I don't, I think at times it's only been the two of you and the chair. I think at times it's been the two of you and the chair and one other. It's you know, I've seen various iterations of this
I'll
presented
look that up.
to FinCom.
Not
so.
now, I've got the stuff with me, but I'll look it
Yeah.
up later.
So, and we can cover a budget subcommittee offline. Okay.
Okay.
Get it maybe next week sometime.
We need- yep.
Yep. Sounds good.
All right.
So if there's no other questions on this, just acknowledge the admin team for providing their information, and obviously Courtney for
Yeah,
putting this
thank you,
all
Courtney.
together.
This is
and-
good stuff.
and adjusting it and making changes, and, you know, we're going to continue to review it and make sure we're all on the same page. We just had a chance to talk this morning. It was the first time we actually had to sit down, had an opportunity to sit down collectively and even talk about their individual budgets, because it's been, you know, frantic a little bit.
Yep.
So thank you, everybody.
Okay. All right. So back to the top.
Yep, so we go back to the top, and we have provided, I believe in your, I hope that it's in your packet. Is there a calendar in your
I didn't see one.
No.
packet? Thought to put calendars in.
I don't remember actually seeing it on my email.
There wasn't one in the email.
I didn't
No,
see it
there
in
wasn't
the
one in the
email.
email
It
either.
was going to be a big surprise reveal tonight.
I know, me too.
Oh,
Your
I have a
multiple
copy
copies?
here.
Okay.
Thank you. Wait a minute, maybe, how many do I have? 1, 2, I have 2, I just have 2.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Oh, great.
I wonder why. I'm sorry.
This is a public meeting. So what we should do then, is while we're waiting for Josh, is if you don't mind, let's ask Cindy and John to come up.
Let's do that.
We can cover that piece of it, and then that will help us to make a decision on this. Oh, that's right, yep, thank you, he's got your document for you, Mr. Bell.
All right. Do you guys have copies of this? I don't know
That we do, yes.
if chart, the graph.
Yes.
But we'll have it on the screen if you don't.
Yeah. think when we were here to share about MCAS data, one of the questions that came up was, we have all these ideas of things we need to implement, and when is that happening, and how do you, balance what needs to be worked on with staff, and we basically said we don't have enough time. So after that, Mr. Maines at one of our admin meetings had said, let's do some research and see what surrounding districts are providing. So that's what this chart has on it. So I took 17 surrounding school districts, including Douglas, and just kind of saw what their calendars had for professional development days to begin the school year. So BOY is the beginning of the school year. We obviously have one day to start the year. The average in the surrounding districts was 1.7. The highest was 3, and lots of districts had 1 or 2 at 3. It was a pretty even mix with those. And then throughout the year, we have 2 additional full days in Douglas, which is a little bit above average from the surrounding districts. I think the highest was 4 in there, and the lowest was 0. And then the PD half days, I think that was the one that I think we were the most discrepant with. We have 0 half days. The average was 3.7. Bellingham, I think, is the winner there. For the elementary school, they have early release every Thursday, which I think is way too much. But we are significantly less than the other school districts. And if you look at total for the total amount of PD time we have throughout the school year, we have 3 full days. The average of the surrounding districts was 5.2 days. Of the 17, we are the fewest. And so I thought that was interesting as we're trying to work towards helping our teachers, working with them on lots of different things. Our biggest struggle is we don't have time to do those things. Even if we add 2 additional half days at the primary and elementary school, that still only moves us up to second from the fewest. There's several districts that have 4. Most have more than 4 days, though. And so that's where the impetus of this proposal was, just trying to find some additional time to work with our staff. Some great things about doing 2 half days is that it doesn't add any additional days to the teacher contract. And at the primary and the elementary school, the reason we're just doing it with the primary and elementary is that we have extra time in student contact minutes, whereas the middle school and high school, they're a little tighter with the minutes because of passing periods and those types of things. So we're doing the primary and elementary together. We can do 1 single bus run for that, so it's the same cost as if we did it at the end of the day. So cost-wise, it's a pretty 0 increase. The biggest impact is really on parents because it's 2 days where they have to pick up their children or find daycare on those days.
So a couple of things real quickly, based on what John has already shared with you, is that we know that those 2 buildings are well above time on learning. This will not adversely impact their time on learning, meeting the state standards for that. John's correct that they're really, all we're doing is simply just swapping the bus. The bus, instead of coming later in the day for the kids, will come earlier, and then when they're done dropping off, they'll have a little bit of, maybe a half an hour or so before they have to go get the high school and middle school kids. And so their day, the bus driver's day, will actually end a little bit earlier. So the benefit, of course, is that we've been able to do some things this year that I think are helping, and we're getting conversations between grade levels, conversations within grade levels, conversations within departments, with our vertical teaming work that we're doing, and also with the professional development day that we had. This provides them a few more days to get together as grade levels or to work with other grades as well. So I think it's a win. It's not a significant increase to what we presently have. It does mean that it would include 2 more half days for those in the elementary and the primary. It would not impact the high school and the middle school. And the other thing I would say is that the 2 full days that we have, and Cindy can speak more to it, is we try to link it in with everybody else in the Blackstone Valley, so our nurses and our art teachers and our music teachers can all collaborate in like groups with the schools, and so we want to try to keep those dates the same in order to take advantage of those shared experiences that I think are beneficial.
Could I just add that particularly next year, both John and I are implementing the new edition of the Reading Wonders program because our 6-year subscription has run out. So there's PD necessary to get teachers ready to implement that. And once they do it, then they want to have question time and someone come in, a rep from the company, to do that. So that's one of the reasons that would be really helpful to have that extra PD. We are both piloting in one grade each right now a new math program. And again, you need time for the reps to come in and talk to the teachers and go through the resources that are available. We've both applied for an ST Math grant, which is an additional math program. It's a supplemental math, and they require us to have so many hours of PD.
Right, and they would come to us, so that's part of the package, is that they would provide, I think it's 3 days, Cindy? 3 days
I think
of
it's
three.
Not
Right.
3 full days, but
No.
it's three contacts.
Three different
Three
times.
contacts on the use of it for the teachers, so they can better utilize it. So that would allow us some days there.
Right, and that's one of the reasons why we picked an early date in September, is because that's, with all these new programs coming in, that's when the teachers would have questions early in the year, once they start using things. Once they do that, of course, there's going to be additional curriculum mapping that's going to have to be done. Once you start a new program, they need to go into those maps and tweak what's in there already, so that would give us time for that in the March date would be nice. And again, just the collaboration between the grade levels. We just don't have that time. You know, teachers will eat lunch together to talk about things. They'll, use part of their prep times, but they don't have that block of 2.5 hours to sit. And when we did the horizontal meetings at the last PD day, it was awesome to have grades 1 and 2 sit together and K and 1 and sit and say, hey, our kids don't know how to sing the ABC song. And we were like, what? So first grade's telling us this, that they're doing ABC order, and the kids don't know how to sing the song. So now, guess who's singing the song? Kindergarten and preschool every day, just to help that out. So little things like that end up being so meaningful. So that's why we're really looking for those 2 extra days. And if parents know in advance, then, they'll make the arrangements.
And currently, when we implement a new program or we're doing vertical teams, we're putting subs in classrooms, we're having paras cover classrooms, and it's quite the disruption to the school when we do those things. The quality of learning significantly decreases when we do those things. And I really feel like we can really dedicate more quality time doing it this way, where we're not just putting a Band-Aid on something. We're really able to make better use of the time, and we're not impacting learning quite as much as we are right now. We get a lot of behavior problems during those kinds of things because it's not the typical people in the classrooms. So I think it's not going to solve that problem completely because it's just 2 half days, but it will significantly decrease the amount of time that we have to do those types of things.
I'm going to make this suggestion when we talk about the calendars, but it's always been something I've wanted to throw out there. I support what you're talking about, but I'm just wondering if, there's kids that are always looking for community service. There's also the National Honor Society. There's also the PTO. How come we can't utilize them to, the kids can stay and hang out maybe in the gym, and they can have some kind of program to help the parents as well, so that, we're adding these extra PD days, but what about helping out the kids too and the parents as well by, just some food for thought that maybe we could do something with those resources that we have and give kids an opportunity to do stuff like that.
But if these days are just for these schools, you won't have the high school kids.
Be in
wouldn't.
school.
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's something that that's why I'm throwing it out there. I don't know how that would
One
work.
of the suggestions someone mentioned, they said it in the past, and I don't know if I haven't been around long enough to know this, but they said in the past when there were half days that paras had done a after-school program where parents could sign up for it and they were compensated for being there. But I haven't been here and I don't know.
I've been here 11 years and I've never heard
Yeah,
that.
I never heard of that. But just something that would be for free, that obviously we don't
right.
have to pay paras, but, or the paras could even be a part of the PD day, I don't know. I don't know, food for thought.
Yep.
I have a couple of questions. I assume it is. Could you tell us why it's preferable to add 2 half days instead of 1 full day?
I think, and I don't know, I think we have to have 180 days in the school year, correct? And so the half days, they'll still count as a school day,
Okay.
whereas if we go with a full day, then we have to add a day to the teacher contract, and it's a bigger mess, I guess.
Okay. And then my other question is, it makes sense to me why you want one so early at the end of September. What's the reasoning for the other one being in March as opposed to still closer to earlier in the year?
So when we had looked at it, we didn't want to go too close to the end of the year because we wanted it still to have impact on the school year. I think if you get in late May, June, then you end up, whatever's worked on then, then you have the summer, it's maybe not as effective. And so we looked for a good time when there wasn't a lot of other stuff going on.
Yeah.
And it also, like Cindy had said, for that curriculum mapping piece, it will have worked on implemented those new curriculum for most of the year, and then we can kind of know where we're at, and we can update those curriculum maps. So for this year, that's kind of what we presented. We can kind of see, and that's flexible too.
Right.
But-
Even the ST Math, they go into reporting and things like that, but
Yep.
they want you to use the program. So that would be a good March date for the ST Math, say the third session for PD.
Yeah.
You can't do the reporting and learn all of that all at once.
Right.
And then the mapping, of course, and some of the other months just are loaded. I mean, we'd never want one in November. There's so many half-days.
From
and-
August to January,
Right.
trying to even find the September 30th date was
Right.
tricky.
I was going to say, November and December are already very disjointed.
Well, and for parents,
In January as
there's
well.
no other days in March, so that makes it a
Right.
little easier
Yeah.
for
Right.
scheduling, I would think, to,
It's
you
a
know.
good time to reflect on the programs and decide if we're going to move forward with them, and if we're doing pilots, do we like that program, don't we like the program, and how do we go forward the following year?
All right.
So,
Thank you.
All right, so, and I don't think we necessarily need a decision today, but we wanted to have that out there. I would also suggest that, depending upon its viability, you could, because of their time on learning, you could look to expand and do another day or two down the road as well. But again, every time you do that, it's a half day, and it does create problems for families as well. But it does give us an opportunity for some professional collaboration that we don't have the opportunity for during the year.
Okay, so this is not reflected in the calendar that we're going to review in a little bit.
Right.
And we are not necessarily looking to have this approved this evening. It's just to get us in front of us and
This
see.
is just to get it out there.
thoughts,
And-
concerns.
And I believe that if we are going to go in this direction, I'd have to check with our labor attorney to see whether or not that is something that would need to be, because it's a change in the schedule. Is there a need for any kind of negotiations with that as well?
Okay.
But the other thing that, with regards to it, is that you can see that the start of the school year is it's August 31st this year, coming up, so it's a little bit later, and you have the Labor Day on the holiday, the day for the teachers and students on Friday the 4th, but then the Labor Day on the Monday, so it's the same as it always has been. Open house, there was some discussion on open house at our last DTA leadership meeting as to whether or not we could flip-flop it and do the high school and middle school on the 15th and do the elementary and the primary on the 17th. We can look at that. We need to finalize that a little bit. The changes that we made to the parent-teacher conferences last year are presently reflected in there. One of the questions that came up at the meeting was, could each year we rotate the start time? So, for example, this year, could the elementary school start at 5:30, and could the primary school start at 6? Conversely, could the high school start at 6 and the middle school start at 6:30? There was some discussion about, there had been, in previous iterations, there had been a rotation of the start time for parent-teachers, so we'll work that out and have that finalized when we get together. I'm trying to think if there's anything other there's nothing really different from previous years.
Why do we have to have a half day on the 23rd? Why can't we do it on the 24th,
Where were you looking?
December?
By contract, the 24th would be the holiday. For Christmas. Yep. All right. It looks like graduation is back in June, in June 4th, which I believe it was a radical departure to actually have graduation on May 31st, to which I suggested to the seniors that they could always go a week later and graduate in June, to which they were not receptive. And then final day is scheduled for the 17th of June, and then the 24th will be the 5 additional days. So we would have another meeting with the Douglas Teachers Association, review all of this, and then bring it back for final consideration and for a vote. So I would need to contact our labor attorney to see what our next steps are with regards to the proposal from John and Cindy with the 2 additional half-days, if there is any negotiation that needs to go along with that.
I'd just point out that under April,
Yep.
there's in the column on the side, the 20th to the 23rd, it's the 19th. It's just a typo.
Under April.
Patriots Day. Should be
Oh.
19.
Should be the 19th, yep. Okay, very good, thank you.
And then we have to make sure we do the July 4th holiday, too.
Yep.
Yeah, we gotta do
What should you use for holidays? Holidays. That is,
Just right here would just be the 3rd, I think.
I have to say it one last time. I don't like the structure of the teacher-parent conferences. This doesn't really impact me as much. I'm not speaking for myself. I'm speaking for all those others that are going to go after me now. It wasn't nice not being able to have a parent-teacher conference for my children the past 2 years.
Where?
I didn't like it, and I don't think it's right.
where?
At the schools, you get 10
Which school?
minutes for like 30 kids. It's not right.
Which school are you talking about?
I'm talking about the middle school
Yeah.
and, well, I'm guessing it would impact the elementary school as well. But the middle schools, how I've been
We've had-
impacted by it for several years now.
Yeah, so we
is
discussed
others.
that, and your point is well taken, and we had charged Mr. Delaney at looking at the splitting of the group from a team of 4 to a team with 2 people, so that they could then see more people that way.
I really think we talk about it all the time, and to me, it's progressively got worse, and I really have regretted, and I know other parents as well, not being able to meet with their student teachers, and then they feel like, oh, well, now I have to make special arrangements, I can only do it by email, well, your kid's great, and then 2 weeks later, I'm finding out there's issues that had I only known beforehand. It's challenging, because you don't really get a lot of opportunities to meet with the student teachers, and I think it's such a integral part of everything.
Well, I haven't heard anything with regards to the primary or the elementary.
Yeah, I'm not too
The
familiar.
high school, you can speak for a half an hour, 45 minutes if you would like to, because there's no one in the rooms.
Although
offering to have
it
them-
wasn't that bad this time.
It was
There's a lot of
bit
people.
better.
Yeah.
I've been offering the middle school parents that can't get in with teachers can always come up and hang out with me. Parent teacher night.
There's just something about meeting with the teachers that's
So
special.
instead of it in the conversation, and this goes back to earlier in the school year, we did have this conversation, and we did charge Mr. Delaney with the responsibility of meeting with talking to his teachers about the possibility of splitting that up so that we could get more opportunities available to teachers, for parents to meet with teachers. And that is still in the works. All right, so there is no
Any other thoughts, questions, comments?
additional things there. Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you. So now, I guess, I feel like we kind of did it, but the entire calendar, that's done, right?
Right,
Okay.
so we've got that, and what we'll do is, again, just for clarification, I will look to see if where we are, whether or not we're gonna change the start times, rotate the start times, if we're gonna change the date for the open
Yeah.
houses from Tuesday to Thursday, Thursday to Tuesday, and then get that cleaned up a little bit, and then speak to Mr. Pagnini about any concerns we might have with adding the 2 additional days, and then bring it back to you probably for the first meeting in March.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So, next up on our agenda is our school committee and subcommittee reports. Accounts payable report, Ms. Brown.
On January 9th, 2020, I signed 6 batches totaling $264,992.46. And on January 23rd, 2020, 6 batches totaling $129,561.12, and nothing unusual.
Questions, comments? Next up, our consent agenda, January 8th, 2020 meeting, amended meeting minutes. So we had these before us at our last meeting. We had some issues with a section of it, so we decided rather than try to amend the section there, because it was quite a bit to amend, we were going to have them fixed offline and then brought back, and I believe those amendments have taken place, and we are okay with those amendments.
Represent you.
Any additional amendments or concerns with the January 8th, 2020 school committee meeting minutes? If not, I'll look for a motion to approve the January 8th, 2020 school committee meeting minutes as they have been amended.
So moved.
Motion from Becky,
Second.
second from Kelly. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstained? Seeing none. Okay. Next up is our January 22nd, so our last meeting. Meeting minutes. Anyone have amendments, questions, comments on these minutes? Just give you a minute to peek through, that I had a chance to do it beforehand. If no changes, I'm looking for a motion to approve the January 22nd, 2020 school committee meeting minutes as presented.
So moved.
Okay, motion from Becky,
Second.
a second from Kelly. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstained? Seeing none. I believe we get Mr. Romano 3 times in a row.
You're presenting for all 3 groups?
Yes.
Hello. Oh, just so you know, I went to the girls' ice hockey senior night tonight for Courtney Ramiza. It was a great time. That place is cold. I forgot how cold hockey rinks are. They weren't as cold when I played. But, what's my first one? Deca. So the Deca Club is, they are going strong. Mr. Hillman has 8 students participating in Deca. 4 of them qualified for the state tournament. And the other 4 qualified for the quiz bowl that they run. It's like a Jeopardy-style tournament. So they do an overnight trip to Boston. It would be Mr. Hillman with the 8 students. He has told me, because I bring teenagers to the big city, what happens when the chaperone's asleep. Mr. Hillman tells me that they do a rotation of sentries, might be the best way to put it, through the hallways, because they have had people express those concerns to them in the past. So they're looking for permission to do the overnight trip to Deca. They're fundraising to pay for it. It is not as costly as I thought it would be. The price that's there includes their hotel, their meals, and their tournament fees.
Because this would be something that we did not anticipate.
The overnight component of it, yes. I think we
Well,
were all excited about.
Even qualifying for the state and so forth.
Even qualifying for states, yeah.
Because, I mean, we weren't even sure that we would be in competition. We were just trying to get the program started. I mean, it's a great dilemma to have, but.
Yep.
It says the cost of the event is $360. Is that for all 8?
For each,
Per student.
yes.
Okay.
It is $360 per student.
Going, that's a really great
That
deal.
would have been a
if that
great
was-
deal. Yeah, I wish. But they are, it is a business program, so they're supposed to be good at entrepreneurship and making money, so they'll go out and fundraise.
So they're fundraising to offset the costs. What they are unable to offset, the school is picking up?
So I'll talk with Ms. Keegan about this, but the Student Activities Fund has some undesignated funds that could potentially go towards that, too.
Okay.
So.
And I think that, geez, it's a school thing. I mean.
I'm not questioning the use of it, just want to clarify.
I wish that we could
what-
contribute a little more, but.
So,
I think they have a very ambitious fundraising plan. I was actually a little bit worried that they'd have a surplus rather than a deficit, actually, but they made a lot of money doing a fundraiser around December selling candles.
Yep.
So they've been pretty successful with the
Good.
fundraising that they did. So.
Isn't the teacher,
8 students?
8. Yep.
Okay.
And isn't that the teacher has something, like, he knows somebody, like, it's his neighbor's business or something, this teacher is pretty.
He's a business teacher.
Oh,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
pretty talented himself.
He is, yeah. He came, he's new to education, but worked at State Street for a couple decades,
Oh, yeah.
so.
And he sells salsa or something like that?
He does make a mean salsa, yeah. I'm sorry, Mr. Means, you were saying?
The gender makeup of the 8 students.
I think it's 7-1. 7 male, 1 female. I know,
Interesting.
No? Because Annie's going, right?
4 and 4?
oh, it is 4-4. No, I'm sorry, yeah, I was thinking of the tournament kids. Yes, I'm
So-
sorry, it is 4-4.
I'm just thinking about rooms and
Yeah.
and sharing. Perfect.
It
Good.
did, yep. That's why I wasn't worried about it.
Okay.
Okay.
No, it sounds like a great opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something I think just great for Douglas to be able to participate in. So,
Yep.
good stuff. All right, any other questions for Mr. Romano on this? Okay, if not, I'll be looking for a motion.
Before you
Yes.
proceed with your motion, if you could include, because it would be too late before you have, by the time you have your next meeting, if you could include, in addition to this language,
Yep.
to also approve utilization of the undesignated
Thank
student
you.
activity
That's a good point.
account for
Any
DECA
deficit?
expenditures, that would be wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you.
2 and 1,
Available funds.
yes.
That's a key word, available funds.
Thank you.
All right, let me see if I can get this.
Yeah.
I move to approve the overnight trip for the Deca State Competition in Boston from Thursday, February 27th to Saturday, February 29th, 2020, with allowing utilization of undesignated funds from the student activity account,
If available.
if available
Yeah,
and
available funds.
necessary.
Right,
And if
very
needed,
good.
yeah.
Perfect.
Second.
Thank you.
Motion from Becky, a second from Julie. I like it. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstained?
I did have one other question I was going to ask, but I didn't want to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Transportation.
Train.
Probably by parents. No, they're going to take parents to the train station into North
And then
Station.
Bill will be on the train with them to
Yep.
to get them in there.
Yeah, I told Billy he has to ride the train too.
Yeah. Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
He knew that, yeah.
Okay. All right.
What's my next one?
Non-schools. Ireland, yeah.
So Ireland. So initially, we had proposed a trip to Ireland, but it would have been at the same time as, or in the same summer as another, the Galapagos trip. So Ms. Leclerc went back and she said, well, let's do it the year after. And then she got sick, and so she did not receive the itinerary from the company and pass it on to me. I initially was assuming it was just going to be the same, but I don't want to say that for sure. So I don't know if we want to table that until she actually gets that for you to see.
I would suggest yes, until we have the itinerary, so we can do a proper
Yep.
consideration. And again, this is not a school-sponsored trip, it is a private trip. They're just
They'd be looking
to
for is like
use
the
our
permission to
facilities
fundraise and-
advertise
yeah.
and so forth. But
All right, let's table that item.
Yeah.
Disposal of damaged computer tables.
So-
We just did this, didn't we? No, we have more
We
tables?
did, but I had a lot. So these are more of the computer tables that were originally purchased when the building was built, I believe. They're in pretty rough shape. We've been kind of taking the ones that are good, putting them all in Mr. Hillman's lab, and then taking the other ones and putting them in the room downstairs from here, which has sort of become a storage room. It wasn't all that pressing for me to get rid of them, except that now, if we add the science teacher that's proposed in the budget, I need to move my robotics lab to downstairs here, and I need some of those tables out of the way. So they really don't have any resale value. Adam Morton, my head custodian, has been kind of taking the worst of them, putting them together, and leaving the better ones for student use. So this would be 6 more, which would clean out most of them now, the ones that we want to get rid of.
do we think there's any use within the district for them?
I wasn't thinking that just because they're damaged on the surface.
So the surfaces are ripped,
Right, it's the surfaces that are damaged, and then the glass is, the glass is hard to see. They're the computer tables that have the glass that the screen is beneath. They're kind of hard to see through now because the glass is scratched up.
Right. Okay, I just, if there's no value to them, that's fine.
These are the ones that are in really bad shape, so there's other ones that could potentially be resurfaced. I can talk to Jeff about that, but those are the ones that we were already keeping, so.
Okay.
And I think this is just about it. I have one cafeteria table that I think we should save, but it doesn't have seats. But I don't,
Yes.
we could
Right.
maybe purchase new seats and then use it, so.
At some point, that will be something that you're going to have to do and actually in the middle school as well, they're going to need to replace some of their seats and so forth, so don't throw that one away.
No, I told Adam that's a keeper, so.
Okay. All right, any other questions for Mr. Romano? Okay. Looking for a motion?
I move to approve the disposal of 6 computer tables from DHS that were rendered unusable.
Motion from Becky,
Second.
second from Kelly. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Seeing none, we are approved. Great, thank you, Mr. Romano.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And robotics came in 11th place at their tournament out of 24 teams.
Oh, great.
They were in 9th place, and then they got a penalty for doing burnouts.
Well, gotta have a little fun, too.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was deliberate burnouts, but.
Okay. Oh, all right. Okay, with that, we'll move on to our next agenda item, our school business and operation manager's report. Ms. Keegan.
Aside from what I've already gone over with regard to budget, I don't have any transfers or reclassifications. If I do get any information on the Student, Opportunity Act, I'll bring it to you. If there's anything that has a dollar sign in front of it, that would be even particularly, I'll bring it to you even sooner.
I'm holding my breath. Thank you, appreciate that. Yeah, and thank you for your work on the budget. All right. Anything else this evening? Topics not anticipated.
Yes, well, 2 things, and actually, it's good news.
Okay.
It's interesting, and it involves money, so that's
Wow,
really
that
interesting.
is not anticipated.
Right. So,
I didn't
Okay,
think we
so-
qualified for this.
So 2 things before we go too far. So we also heard today that the elementary school received a grant under Project Lead the Way for $10,000 over the 2-year period. It's $6,000 first year, $4,000 second year. I applied today for a grant with regards to some water fountains and filling stations.
Oh, good.
Josh, you received a grant today from Project Lead the Way.
Oh, wow.
Mine, I think, is 42 over 3 years.
Oh, wow, good job, guys.
So that will all help with some of the science things. Now, this came in on Friday, had opportunity to look at it, and as I said as a preface, there were 3 more documents that came in today, right before I came up,
Okay.
supporting information on this, but I wanted to share with you that this had come through. So this just came through under the rural school aid from the governor. And if you look at the second paragraph, it says the purpose of the rural aid is to provide funds to support district efforts to increase regional collaboration, consolidation, and other efficiencies. Based on the funding criteria, you will receive $47,130. Now, then it talks about the first payment will be in early February, the second payment will be at the end of April, and if you were to turn it over, you get to the last paragraph, and that's the one that I highlighted specifically. Again, it talks about that requires that all districts receiving funds under this line item also submit a plan to the department outlining the steps the district will take to increase regional collaboration, consolidation, or other efficiencies over the next 3 fiscal years.
If only you had such a plan.
So, and it says, while districts can use rural school aid to support these activities, they are not required to do so.
Okay.
Which to me sounds like, oh, by the way, we may have other priorities that might take place over our collaboration, consolidation, and efficiency. Because the first thing I thought of was Blackstone Valley
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
support. However,
In sports.
then when Courtney and I were talking, we were talking about, boy, do we have a problem with needs for technology.
Yep.
And could this be used as a first foray into minimizing that overall
Yeah.
cost for computers. And 47 is 13 light for the 60,000 that was for the high school.
Yeah, it was a high school
high
teacher
school,
PCs, yeah,
Their
Yeah.
desktops.
yeah.
So I present this to you only to say to you that there's this sum of money that's there. I will review the additional information that came in and make some inquiries as to whether or not we're going to get dinged for trying to use this for technologies. I mean, we do have, it could be used for your, like we said, for Blackstone Valley Collaborative and some other things. But I would think that the significance of the need that we have presently, this might help us with, check one box out of the technology boxes that we have to check, so.
Excellent.
So in your FY 2021 budget, I did remove the amount we had in the budget for the PCs. We left the lab ones in there, the 25 lab, but the 50 PCs we took out, figuring we would get it.
Okay.
After April, we'd get second payment.
So the
could
budget we
spend
have
on
is
that.
already kind of reflecting that we're gonna, okay, thank you. I was hoping it was
Just so that you
not
know that.
reflected yet, but, okay.
Yeah.
No, that's okay, good.
But we'll, as I
Good
said,
news.
with that information just coming in, we really need to pour over it and make sure we're using it
Yeah.
correctly so that we don't misuse the funds.
So,
But
so I guess to that point,
Otherwise, Gene won't pay the bill.
Right.
in the budget that was presented, do we have any monies for the Blackstone Valley Consortium and having students participate in other
Yes, so
districts?
there's we increased that line item that used to be, I think, $3,800. We put it up to $10,000 because of the additional courses that they are planning to offer and some expenses. So if nothing else, you could use it to offset
Yeah, at
that.
least offset that, yeah, that's good. Okay. Good stuff, great. Always appreciate grants and whatever
Oh,
else.
and I forgot there was one more. So the ST Math, we did get a reduction of $1,000 on that. We got that confirmation late last week as well, so that will make it a little bit more palatable for the primary school, which has fewer grades, to take advantage of it. So they did take $1,000 off of that as well. So every nickel and shekel counts.
Yep,
So
okay.
that was the topics not anticipated.
Okay. With that, just note that our next meeting will be on, I took my glasses off too soon, March
Yeah,
5th?
March-
4th, March 4th. We had a leap year this year. March 4th and then March 18th after that. So, but we will be posting a meeting for February 25th, just in case all, or at least 3 of us can make it to the FinCom meeting. So
let me see.
that could end up being another open meeting for us.
Just want to make sure that I have that in here. So we have the 25th of Finance
Tuesday.
Committee, and I believe that, do we have also a negotiation that day again?
Mm-hmm.
It's getting to be a bit of a routine.
Another
here.
marathon evening.
Get them all out of the way at the same time.
And then, so the first meeting in March is on the 4th,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, with that, if there's nothing else, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn at 8:28 PM.
So moved.
Motion from Kelly,
Second?
second from Lisa. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstained? Seeing none, we are adjourned.